Now, earlier, I spoke with international security expert Jim Walsh. He believes Pompeo will be trying to nail down some details of a US-DPRK agreement.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is push this dialogue to the point where there's actually a plan in place. Now, it's easy to forget, but in most circumstances in the past, what you do is you have lots of negotiation, and then you have sort of a roadmap or an agreement, and then the two leaders meet and give their blessing. And we're moving sort of in the opposite way. We had the two leaders meet and have a good meeting, but we have done none of the real negotiation, detailed, hard-working negotiation that has to be done in order to have a real agreement that you can implement. So I assume he's going to be talking to them about a roadmap, that on this date, this should happen, and on this date, that should happen, and definitions and all of that, and then they're going to push back, and they're going to say, no, we prefer this rather than that. In other words, a negotiation.
There's nothing traditional about either of these leaders in the way they've moved to this point so far. But I want to talk to you about the fact that satellite imagery apparently shows that the DPRK is not only enhancing its weapons production efforts, but also working on more solid fuel missiles. What's the concern about that, obviously?
Obviously, if they are working on missiles and nuclear, that's bad, but I am not surprised. If you look at the history of negotiations, very frequently what happens is both sides in a negotiation continue to do what they're doing. We're imposing sanctions. They're working on their nuclear program up and until that agreement is made. In fact, there's sort of an incentive in negotiations for countries to continue beavering away at whatever they've been doing up until the point where they are forced to stop. So I think that this is rather typical behavior. The problem is these are not typical leaders. And it may be that the president thinks that the North Koreans are fooling around, being too cute, and he may react very negatively to that. So I think the onus is on the North Koreans to show that they are sincere by continuing to take steps that the U.S. is asking for, and the U.S. has to demonstrate that it's serious in the negotiations by addressing North Korea's concerns. Both sides have to move forward.
And let's talk about what this means for the region, because China has been very active, the Republic of Korea also as well, Japan involved. How important is it to get that area of Asia all on the same page as they deal with Kim Jong-un?
I think most of the countries in the region are on the same page on this question. Certainly China wants a peace and stability. The last thing it wants is provocations and the chance of war, a war on their border that would have severe economic consequences for them. The South Koreans as well. I mean, if there's a war, it's going to be fought in their backyard, and they don't want that. So certainly President Moon's philosophy from a very early age and through to his presidency has been all about inter-Korean relations and inter-Korean peace and stability. I would say the sort of odd country out on this is Japan. Certainly Japan does not want more missile tests, missiles landing near its country. That's a bad thing. But I think Japan traditionally has been much more suspicious of North Korea and would like the U.S. to take a harder line. And naturally, as allies do, is concerned that the U.S. will cut a deal that might leave Japan out or undermine its interests. But in the main, most countries prefer peace and stability. They prefer that North Korea stop acting up. And if this is a process that produces that result, I think everyone can live with that.